Old business, the equity statement for stock bylaws.
We're gonna have to skip the voting for that and for the board again, because we're.
Numbers.
Eight, other people, others on board members.
Okay, hold off on it. So, on to announcements. So let's see, Terry couldn't be here, but she sent along an email about the food drive and did a great job. We raised $2,250 in the online forum. Our goal was 3,000, so that's a great effort. Another $214 in cash was donated at the storefront on March 2nd, and 541 pounds of food were collected in addition to that. And shout out to Terry Reed, Matt Bowes, Chris, Sarah Steindorf, Martha Johnson, Ron Laney, and Scouts of Troop 182. who did all the actual physical stand there, greet people and ask for donations at the stores.
You said Sarah Swindor?
Yeah.
Also, shout out to the Girl Scouts. They helped out a lot at Fred Meyer. They were pitching, they were our co-tablers, and they ended up taking some of our handouts and they were handing them out with Girl Scout cookies. It helped out a lot.
Good. Nice. And thank you to our tech folks for getting it in the website and the social media to get it out, to get people to donate. We appreciate that. Okay, Art in the Park grant. Terry also sent along that the concert for August 4th is a go. It's gonna be from 1 to 4:30 at Aubrey Park. So far, there's 2 food trucks. There's El Taco Taco and there's Justice Shave Ice. And there's a planning committee for that event, and we met and we just agreed to go ahead and purchase the first 100 shave ice free, so that the first 100 customers or kids that show up get to have theirs at no cost, which was super popular last year. Troop 182 is gonna do the parking and safety of the entry and exit again. St. Matt's is gonna advertise it and allow us to use their parking lot. And on Wednesday, March 30th, if you want to join the planning committee, we have a Zoom meeting with the City of Eugene Cultural Services, who administers the grant and gives us the grant. So if you want to join the planning committee, I'll give you Terry's information. Everybody's welcome. All right. Friends of Aubrey Park.
The 13th annual wildflower celebration is Saturday, May 4th. There'll be a chip spreading party soon where they dump the chips, and then there's another work party on April 6th. And shout out to all the people who, a dozen people Saturday after I sent out an email saying, you don't need to show up. And there was snow on the ground. We had a dozen people still show up, including some new people. So, glad to see that. And so we picked up about, I don't know, 8 new people in the last 3 months in the cold weather. So it's been great. It's great. So May 4th is the wildflower 13th annual celebration.
Great. Santa Clara Community Garden, is there any information from Peter on that?
There was supposed to be a meeting in that garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. He wanted to still meet. I'm not sure how it's gonna play out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Tim Felker, Santa Clara Community Foundation.
Not much to report. We had a Almond Heroes work party. Jim showed up, several other people. And we cleaned up along the bank of the pond outlet, which is just choked with blackberries. So now you can actually see that little creek that feeds off to the north. And so we'll do some more over there next month. The last Saturday of the month, anytime between 9 and 2, down at the end of Alvin Lane on East Beacon Drive. Come and join us. That's about it. We're 10,000. We paid some money out to the lawyers for our annual fees for them. So we're down a few $100 from our balance, so we need more money, so.
Okay.
What's our status of our? Freedom,
We're still in that phase where Carolyn's doing her homework and we're doing ours. So our insurance quote was over 6 months old, so they have to redo the whole thing and send it out to their brokerage team. So they're doing that, and I have 3 other companies also looking. So I'm confident we will get an estimate or a proposal to cover us. And then I had a meeting down at Building and Permit Services, right down there a week and a half ago, to try to be clear on what kind of permits we'll need to pull and what code we'll have to build up to. And they were helpful, but not as detailed as I want yet. But I think they want us to have architectural drawings to submit, and then they'll be more detailed with us. And in the interim, I'm talking with Mark Cosmos, who's the parks planner in charge of that part, and trying to coordinate the utility trenching and placing that the city's gonna be doing, and they're starting utilities in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, really?
So, need to get out there, and it's not as, quite as straightforward as Carolyn sort of led us to believe, in that, there's a whole process around requesting, even putting in a Y valve. So we need to have Bob get on that with me and submit some requests to Mark.
Right, we
for that.
definitely want to do that while we have the opportunity.
Yeah.
For sure.
So that's on my to-do list for the week, and I haven't heard back from Bob yet, but we'll rattle his cage again about that. So that's where that is right now. And Jerry Moore and I had a meeting with a neighbor who taught accounting at LCC to talk about
Doing QuickBooks, so getting QuickBooks set up,
Oh, excellent.
so, I'll talk to, get down in the weeds and details of how that can help us manage, donor lists, getting out letters, kind of things, and keeping track of all the things. In a way that, she suggested, she works now as a, the book for a nonprofit, so she's very knowledgeable.
Well, right now, I'm just maintaining the contact list.
And I can do that all in one place, so, so I've been going in and doing a little bit of training to see. That works, I'm getting too far into it, until I'm
In quick,
in QuickBooks.
Okay. I'm gonna insert another item here, which is the neighborhood plan. So the River Road neighborhood planning process, which has been going on since the fall of 2017, is now headed to public hearing in front of the City Council and the Board of County Commissioners next Wednesday, March 12th. And it's a public hearing that's virtual only, and anybody who is at all inclined to give testimony, we would encourage you to get signed up for that. The hearing's at 6 p.m. To sign up to speak, you have to log into their thing and sign up between 5:30 and 6:05. At 6:05, they stop taking requests to be a public, somebody who can give public comment. And if you would like to give written testimony, that would be great too. And if you want more information about it, or want to see a letter from the Citizen Advisory Committee, crafted a letter, and then I sent out a draft SACO letter, but I haven't heard back from enough board members, just from Tim and Dawn so far, and Jerry. So that's not enough for us to move forward, so I would like to check in the room tonight. Yep.
I think I thought it was the same letter, so I voted support.
It's a different letter. I'm trying to make it, more location specific to our needs as opposed to the group needs. But, and I'm still open to if there's something you think is missing or glaringly wrong, I can fix it at this point. But, thank you, Louis, and if anybody else on the board wants to indicate support or otherwise, that's helpful too. And, if you need, any email address, where to send it, how to send it, questions about what may or may not be in it that you may or may not support, I'm available. So,
Yeah, I might mention that if you know any of the city councilors or the county commissioners, don't be afraid to call and talk to them, because I met with Mike Clark last week. And, I was impressed with his level of knowledge and understanding of what we were doing. And I hit him with the fact that I says, you know, I haven't been involved for the last 2 or 3 years, but I was involved 7 years before that. So I said, it's been going on a long time. And John Reese says, put your ideas down, and instead of depending on us to do it. And, but it was a good conversation, so I would encourage anybody that if you have some contacts, and I've got a couple of county commissioners that I'd be happy to talk to about that.
Well, I'd be curious how that went for you, because when I listened to the city council work session, Mike Clark made it pretty clear that he thought maybe it should go ahead, but without any of the code amendments. So if you care to put another bug in his ear and say that basically strips any enforceability out of it.
Well, I was impressed with his level of interest.
Yeah, okay.
Before you go to land use, just want to give a plug to the city parks open spaces for the Riverloo Park trees.
Uh-huh.
They put in 120 trees out there, a big, nice variety of them. And I ride my bicycle over there, and so one day I went by, so, first I saw the tips, then I saw about 80 trees, and I saw more, and talked to them. I said, no, 120.
Trees are in the park or along the route?
They are in the park on that lawn, probably halfway, it's probably now in lawn halfway in the tree.
130,
And the whole 120.
120 trees.
Yeah, I'm surprised, I can think it looked like that many, but.
Yeah, well, they spread it out this, yeah.
I had a question because I did go to a preliminary meeting for the planning commission. Both the, county, was there, and I believe you were there, and people were giving testimony. And the owner of, the marina, Clemens Marina showed up. They were able to get an attorney. Because their property in the zoning that is recommended in the plan would have been devalued. So in the sense that they could not sell it as a business that they had. So is the zoning that they're proposing coming from this group? Or is the zoning coming from the city based upon your recommendation?
Their concerns have been addressed in that all
Those
of the,
two businesses that.
all of River Avenue,
Yeah,
starting there going east, is being excluded from any code amendment changes.
but what I'm asking is, those code amendments are gonna stay the same for the rest of River Road, meaning that there would be no fossil fuel businesses allowed to sell their business as is.
They can sell their business as it is. If they choose to go out of business, they can't, after a year, they can't start a new business. You can continue to operate your.
But they could not
car.
sell the business to someone else if it's fossil fuel.
They can.
That was kind of, because I talked to several businesses and they're confused. So that's why there was kind of a rebuff as to what that amendment is. So I think Mark Clark's comment about everything, you know, or what your impression was that he was for everything but the amendment, the code amendments. And I think that was because picking and choosing businesses based upon the type of business.
Well, that came out of the working groups, you know, the hundreds of neighbors who gave their comments over the last 7 years or whatever. That's where the action plan all comes from, it's from neighborhood input. And so it's not a staff-driven thing, they help us write up the language in the format that they need for a plan, but all of the commentary came from the neighbors.
So what is the, in plain English, the code amendments mean for businesses along the road?
It would
That was something I
Mhm.
didn't really quite get.
It would reduce maximum building height in the C2 zone from 120 feet tall to 65 feet tall. It would help change zoning in the neighborhoods to allow co-located agricultural sales. So at this point, one person can only sell things they grow. But if 3 or 4 neighbors wanted to get together and make a little farm stand on their street, they aren't allowed to do it at this point, but that would change. There would be a limit to new storage units in our C2 zone. There would be a limit to adding new auto-oriented uses to the C2 zone.
Okay, so it's that was the question, because like with the USA, I talked to the owners there, one of the that lives in this neighborhood. And it would affect them if they were to, because they're a fossil fuel.
But they're not a new one.
They're not new, it wouldn't change anything.
That was what was concerning Mr., the owner of Clemens Marina, because when their attorneys read it, it said if they wanted to sell the business as is, they would not. There was some question as to whether they could do that.
They could sell it as is and it could still run the same way. They can't expand it greatly and they
That
can't
affected
go out of.
the rental place
Right.
because they had already purchased.
Right.
And so that
Right.
was something that was very concerning.
They never been grandfathered.
Right, so we've just
Been over.
excised that from the plan.
Okay,
Because really it's about trying to create a vibrant pedestrian corridor along the corridor. And they kind of got caught up in it because their zoning is the same as the C2 zoning on the corridor, but I don't know, ambiance, what's the word you would use? The expectation for the land across the street from the sewage treatment plant to be a vibrant pedestrian corridor is pretty low.
that was right.
And so really concentrating what the goal is about creating more walkable neighborhoods with space and services for the people who live near them along the corridor is really what the goal is.
So this is little, will be able to market your product in the neighborhood. I live in a new subdivision portion that was built in, a farm. I mean, and so then I'm surrounded by a county. And there are 3 homes that are allowed to grow marijuana and sell it. So is that part of the product that
I
is
don't,
going to?
no, I don't think that's
sold?
not
Okay,
considered the agricultural production. I think we looked at that.
Okay.
When we were.
I just wanted, because some of my neighbors, I was sharing them. And I said, and they were like, well, we already have a problem with those 2 of the neighbors. who sell
Good
it."
question.
Oh, it's
What?
everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, River Loop 1, go for it. Stop by one of their houses.
It can be a little smelly to be a neighbor of somebody who does a lot of
Yes.
processing. I'm a
Yeah.
neighbor of somebody who does a lot of
Yeah.
processing.
So I just wondered if that was a stand that they were gonna be able to have, because one of the neighbors does have quite an
No,
down road.
Well, they
that's,
still have to be permitted to sell, right?
Pardon?
A cannabis shop has to have a permit.
Yeah.
So,
and they have,
These are grandfathered in, they were, for years ago, 20 years ago, were given permits by the county to grow it and sell it as medical marijuana.
but they can't create a vending place for it, right? Like that.
Oh, there's cars that are going all the time.
Yeah. But to
I'm
create
just saying, so
actual-
if this allows, them to do that kind of thing, but it doesn't.
It excludes,
Okay.
it's intended for gardening, yeah. This is how it's written, so.
It's just, we're in an area out here where farming land is available to do whatever you want to do with it.
Any other questions?
No, but that really clears that up, and I'm glad that was resolved for those businesses, because it was concerning.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing it.
Mhm. And I think, you know, numbers make a difference, because at this point, I know anybody who's been involved over the last 7 years feels like they've said what they had to say 700 times by now, but the truth is that between right now and the end of the comment period, which I'm gonna ask for it to stay open a week after the hearing, to try to get enough people to write letters and prepare comments.
Clarification, you said that Louis, I think I jumped to the same conclusion Louis did. We have 2 letters going.
There's a CAC letter,
Yeah,
and then there's a SACO letter,
okay, so
and there's an ARCO letter.
I haven't responded to the soccer letter.
No, you have not,
No.
but I love you anyway. And then, I'll buzz through land use, let's see, 94 Irvington has an annexation request for a 0.29 acre parcel. Dutch Brothers at the corner of Irving and River Road is put in an application to rebuild with a slightly bigger kiosk organized on a slightly different access and a little bit further to the west to allow for queuing for 2 queues, so they can have drink runners running from car to car and do a much brisker business. 214 Grizzly is looking for a lot validation. That's a small lot on the south side of Grizzly, the second property to the east of River Loop 1, because it's a little part that is part of a larger lot from quite a bit of time ago that's going to be subdivided, and they wanted to make sure that's a legal lot to add it to their subdivision. The Oberon Family Trust piece, which is the east end of Terra Linda and drops down to where River Loop 1 turns and goes north, and if Terra Linda continued, would butt into River Loop 1 there. That has those 2 great, 2 houses set way back in this beautiful sort of woody meadow, right? So that place is getting divided, and all the land behind them, which looks like a lovely forest and backs up to Terra Linda and all of that, which started in 2022, but is now hitting the ground running for that partition. I think it's like 17 more lots is finishing. The Hyacinth Street is at the final plat for that, across from Irving Elementary. It's kind of a large lot. They're dividing into 3 lots, and on each one of those 3 lots, they're gonna do a middle housing development, which would be the first middle housing development under the new middle housing code in our neighborhood. So it'll end up being 8 dwelling units, a 4-plex and 2 2-plexes is the plan. So they're still not quite finished, but getting there. And then there's Eden Estates, which is 2.07 acres at 801 River Loop 1. So that is the oh, that's sorry. That's one of, that's the, I gave it the wrong name, with the 17 lots. And so the Oberon partition at the east end of Terra Linda is where Terra Linda just dies, and then there's a large lot and then an older Victorian home back there. And they're dividing it up into 2 parcels so that one of them can be subdivided into 3 lots. That's the word on land use. And I'll send you that.
Thank you, because
Yes.
I'll definitely butcher it otherwise.
Yeah, so, I meant to get it done earlier, but I didn't.
Other land use, do you know what's happening? Who purchased the land? I hear.
I have no idea. Do you think it was sold?
Yes, I talked to the realtor, it's sold.
Oh, no, I have no idea the purchase there.
Oh,
So
okay,
until-
so we don't know.
I won't
He
know
said that it was gonna be multi-housing
multifamily housing.
of some kind.
They haven't put in an application yet because.
Okay, that was why I asked if, oh, so you would know if they,
Mhm,
because he said that it would be something the city would have to approve. He didn't give me all the details.
So you can go to the City of Eugene website and get signed up for any land use in your neighborhood association. You can choose to be on the list that comes out every week about land use all over the city, like when there's a new application.
Oh, it's only been.
Yeah. So what people are thinking, they bought the land, they're thinking about it, they hired somebody to draw, none of that I'll know until they've sent in an application and.
At the time, it was just, it had, you know. But he said that the church had picked between 2 or 3 offers
Mhm.
and tried to get the one that was least invasive to the, that was quote. So the other question, because there was a lawsuit with the mid-housing that was successful, and the city of Eugene is supposed to be rewriting their mid-housing based upon the fact that the infrastructure that we have for River Road, Santa Clara really doesn't, you know, hold beyond what the original lot sizes and lots. For instance, I'm gonna give you an example. Peace Village was not originally, zoning was not for 70 tiny houses with 1 or 2 people who flushing the toilet 5 times a day. It was for maybe 7 homes, you know, that size property. So the infrastructure was not built.
So
So
my,
my question is, all of this mid-housing, and how are they getting permits now that the city is required by the state to rewrite?
well, the city's required to provide findings about whether or not they have adequate infrastructure. It wasn't that they were told they don't have it, they were told that their middle housing code didn't force them to provide findings that they do have it. So they're working on figuring out how that works. And, you know, the sewer system was only put in here in the 80s, so it's designed for, you know, I'm sure far greater capacity than was here when they put it in, because that's the way they build infrastructure. They don't build it for steady state. They
My
build.
husband's an engineer. So I live close to those 70,
Mhm.
and we're already experiencing some overflows of things happening based upon, and people are in our streets flushing out. I'm just telling you,
Mhm.
we don't know,
Yeah,
and eWeb doesn't know either.
yeah.
So we're visually seeing some of so I don't know if, like across from Irving, you know, that, I know where you're talking about, because I walk there. That's a pretty small space for 8 units.
On Hyacinth,
Oh, it's
That's
not,
on Hyacinth.
not across from the Irving
Oh.
Elementary.
it is.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
Hyacinth Street. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess those are comments not made here, and the reason I'm making them here is when I call the city, or I call we'll go to your community group, because they represent your neighborhood to the city. So that's why I'm asking questions.
If you're experiencing, you say, negative impacts, can you give us specifics, like
I don't
exactly?
know. I'm not experiencing them, we're seeing them show up. And we have Ferndale Park, which is supposed to support that neighborhood for drainage and all of the other things, but. So I'm just talking to neighbors and we're seeing, and so I'm encouraging them because I'm the activist.
You say like, you have
Specifically, what do you
over,
see?
say you have,
They've been out looking at the, you know,
The soil.
in this, well, the swale had, because They're all
That's
connected.
city.
That's a very, we're far away from them about, what, 5 blocks, 6 blocks. But you're putting 70 homes in an area where only 7 really originally it was designed. So this is what I'm wondering about here is, as a neighborhood, are we concerned that they're going to put 70 homes?
I think that
here?
the due diligence, yeah, it should be there to make sure that the infrastructure, water, electric,
Yeah.
sewer and storm can handle it. And if the neighborhood is having, water pressure
Sometimes
drop
if they
issues.
didn't do that, which they didn't at that point, because that was approved about 3 years ago, 4 years ago. It's taken up now. And we were a neighborhood that were unaware that it was happening, and when Mr. Bryant was recently giving some testimony to I don't know why he was doing this public testimony, he said, well, we have to be careful where we put our villages.
Mhm.
And there were 3 reasons, and the second reason, which I've already contacted somebody, the second reason is, obviously, the second reason, the big one, is the challenge of neighborhood resistance. And these sometimes are some of the largest challenges that we have because people don't like change, or they don't want to see that kind of change in their neighborhoods. Neighborhoods that have resources can mount legal battles against us that they really don't want in their neighborhood. So when I read this to 80 of my neighbors, because I went around, they go, yeah, we didn't have the legal ability to fight that. That's why you're not seeing it in some of your other neighborhoods, but they're using our neighborhood.
One thing I'd just like to say is I think Kate's asking for some specific information. We have another group who doesn't want a bike path coming up their street, across the field of the street. And so they literally have taken us out there several times, wrote up information on the sheet. And then that led to having Reed Dunbar join us on another street tour out there. And that kind of opened his eyes to it. And so I think that kind of action would help a lot.
Okay.
And especially if we have specifics
Yeah.
on impact. And I'm not sure what you mean by stuff's happening. Can you be specific?
Well, I don't know why they're out there looking at the drain, where the pipes are running out to from all the
No,
different streets.
I'm saying it sounds like
And
your
what they're
neighbors. are
saying
telling
is,
you-
it's all of a sudden, we have this overbill of, what if you have 7 homes with 5 people, that's 35 people flushing the toilet how many times? I'm giving you an example.
So,
When I talked to,
so your concern is that you saw EWEB out there looking in this.
well, they said we were having some issues. That's all they said. I said, does it have to do with over construction, and they go, we're not sure, They don't want to say, and we have vacant property around us that's gonna be built up in our neighborhood here because of the fact that we have Santa Clara being a farm, farms prior. I'm not trying to create problems. I'm coming to you and saying, do we really want all this middle housing out here behind single-family homes that were designed in infrastructure? I see Mr., he's laughing because he maybe lives on 3 acres and is gonna put ADUs on, and he wants that, because that's happening too. And so then you're having all these, and are we going into infrastructure that we really don't have, and it's gonna affect us.
So I would just tell you that we, as a neighborhood association, don't have the power to create,
Right.
laws and, code that go with certain zoning. So,
Except that in your neighborhood plan, you did make a suggestion to the city how to change the code. codes.
Correct, we can make suggestions, but we don't.
And so I'm just
change
bringing
them.
that to you
Yeah.
as a group.
Mhm. So, I think that the community, the greater community-wide consensus has been about building up and not building out. So the whole, what do you call, the metropolitan plan for the city of Eugene, when considering all 100 or 200,000 people, the consensus or the majority opinion was that at all, wherever possible, let's densify and keep things compact and mitigate the amount of, land that we use and the resource that we waste by moving further and further afield, and then people needing to drive to the goods and services that they need. And let's make what we have inside our existing urban growth boundary more livable for the people who live there and the people who will come to live there. And we can do that by improving alternate modes of transportation. We can limit the building height, we can add more parks, we can create more green spaces and gathering areas and urban plazas and all the things that are needed for people when they're living more densely. And how do you balance all that inside a finite space? And so,
And that's what I'm saying is, how dense do we want to get?
Well, I'd like to jump in here
In
again,
this area here,
is for years I've heard that, there was gonna be 20,000 more people out in the Santa Clara area. And now it might be a good opportunity to maybe have EWEB come here and say, we've been talking about 20,000 people coming in here for a long, long time. Is the infrastructure here? We've got multi-family now, we've got, tall buildings that we think are gonna come in eventually. Will it handle 20,000 people?
sure, we can make a program for that if we want to have just EWEB or you want to have somebody else too.
I think it's water too.
Stormwater,
Yeah,
stormwater,
and I
wastewater.
guess the other question is, do we want that to happen out here where you're putting 70 homes?
Well, that was what I was trying to say, is
Yeah.
that we don't get to choose that.
And so I think we do choose to a certain degree, we give input into, do we want the mental housing out?
Well, and that is part of the neighborhood plan to encourage, some infill capacity. And so if
Yeah.
that's something that you're really against, then maybe testifying for the city council
Yeah,
in their
that's
upcoming
good.
meeting.
So that answers my
Something
question.
you want to do.
But the middle housing code is a mandate from the state.
Right.
It's not about local preference for middle housing. Middle housing for every municipality above a
The
certain
original
population.
middle housing, not the middle housing that 70 homes go, but Peace Village built, or 3 stories behind an individual home. That's happening, gonna happen. So, yeah, that's a whole different argument. I just was checking to see what was going here, if you knew,
No.
and how we can support, so maybe that it's a done deal already. So sold,
Mhm.
and probably they would have purchased it without the knowledge that they were needing to do it.
I mean, I know from my experience trying to work with or against any land use application, there are specific criteria that they have to meet, and you can address anything you want, but if you want to have an impact on the decision, you have to find where they aren't meeting the criteria.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
And obviously, some neighborhoods were able to squelch certain things because they were able to have money to their attorneys, according to Mr. Martin. So that's, I guess, what our neighbors want. Is to
For that-
do it ourselves rather than.
that utility one, I'd be very curious if you get specifics on that, if you could share that with us. They should definitely be calling EWEB and City of Eugene if they're seeing spills
Well,
of
I think
any.
that they're now going to have to be required. to
Yeah,
do
you
that.
had mentioned
They were
it,
not
that
required to.
in
do
your
that.
neighborhood, there was neighbors saying that there was already some issues that I would say, yeah, I'd be very curious to know those are and have it reported.
Yeah, I don't know what they are at this point. Because it's only been, what, 3 or 4 months. So I think it's always interesting, the problems were isolated, foreseen.
Well, I know that's how my life works. Original.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No, I think it has to do with the whole plan too, where we're going.
Okay.
I just have a comment, because on many years of exposure of things in different places of the country, that when authorization was given for these 7, this was kind of heard of this aspect. How could they give permission for 70 units when they know what the original zoning for this area, say, was 7 homes? It shouldn't have been allowed, because if you kept doing that on every parcel around this area that wasn't set up for that kind of thing, you're automatically gonna overload the utility and the infrastructure that's there, whether it's the streets, whatever it is. And there's been many, many cities around the country that started years ago, 20, 30 years ago, that when a developer wanted to come into the area, and it was gonna affect, putting in subdivision and so on, it was gonna affect, say, the traffic, whether it was a mall or housing. They had to be sure that the streets and the utilities and stuff were up to code, and they had to help pay for it.
Yes.
And have it completed before their developments were, so that you weren't doing all of that updating after you're opening a mall or you're opening the housing and causing even more destruction to the traffic in the area. And those towns were doing great because they require that of the developer. To make those, if you want to do this, it's beyond what this, maybe it's an agricultural area or a, farming or anything, forestry. If it was changing, they had to make the adjustments. Had to be part of their thing, wasn't a requirement of the county or the city or whatever. And those places have been very successful. And I feel like we could go at things faster.
There's, they call them PEPIs, they're privately engineered public improvements. So they are required for certain size developments depending, and so that can be anything from stormwater facilities to sidewalks to street upgrades to crosswalk or, all kinds of things based on whatever the mathematical formula is for the impacts. Traffic impact analyses based on number of trips generated by what you're building. And that is baked into the process. Your specific question about how was Peace Village allowed to build 70 units, I wasn't part of, I work for the city, I don't
But it
know.
was just kind of a general, just
Yeah,
a question for information, because it seemed like somewhere along the line, we're not doing the line. We're not looking out for people, but especially the taxpayers who already, put their money into this, and they're supposed to be looking out for our welfare. Who's ever in charge and doing this thing. I don't feel they really look out for us. They get a job and it's all about them and what little decisions they want to make. You don't always consider the mass of people.
well, I would
It's
say,
getting to be very concerned
yeah,
for many of us.
city planning department works at the behest of the city councilors. So I would say, talk to your city
Yeah.
councilor and ask
I
for,
try.
yeah. Or your county commissioner if you're unincorporated, right? Those are the options.
Yeah, that's the one mission. Council.
Go, Sarah! Okay, anything else for the good of the order, friends?
Eugene Scottish Festival, Saturday, May 25th, across the street from Jerry.
Huh?
At the Grange.
May 25th at the Irving Grange. What time on May 25th?
I believe it's like 10 to 4-ish, but there's a website and a Facebook event
Okay.
and all that stuff.
Will you be there in your kilt?
It will.
Okay, that's reason.
Will we have a march?
And I will likely be throwing things because I'm less injured this year than I was last year.
It'll be a timber, what do you call this thing?
Caper.
Okay, so we have an idea for an infrastructure program sometime. So we already booked, next month is homelessness is a housing problem and SJC production. May is our public safety forum at Madison Middle School. So we're looking at June and onward for other programs. So I'm all happy to take any suggestions.
Did you have a date for that? Meeting with Madison?
It's the soccer meeting, the first Thursday, but it's gonna be at Madison instead of here.
Okay.
There's a little,
Is there a reason it's gonna be at Madison?
because we're expecting a big turnout.
Or, it's gonna be somebody talking.
Oh, yeah, and you're gonna be getting a postcard in the mail, anybody who lives in the neighborhood, and here is the paper version of the postcard. To advertise it to you if you want that. For advance notice, you can, but, one's coming to every house.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they will, they should be another week.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be getting the actual postcard in the mail.
Okay, on that note, are we doing anything at the actual event to highlight our organization and?
Oh, always, we'll start by introducing ourselves and who we are and why this meeting is here, and, please get involved, and we need warm bodies and enthusiastic humans and caring individuals, and, yeah, oh, and, Joel Robe is stepping down from Reading Northwest, so we're not going to have, anybody who's working on disaster preparedness in our neighborhood. If somebody else wants to take up the torch on that at some point, that would be great. And then NLC, we should talk about that. Are you going to those meetings at all, Louis?
I get the emails.
Okay, so they are the fourth Tuesday of every month. If anybody would like to be the volunteer to do that, it's, I think they're doing in person, but I don't know if they're hybrid or not at this
It's
point.
been hybrid. I have joined one on Zoom.
Mhm.
My plate just got a little void of openness, so last 2 weeks.
Okay, so is that you saying you want to continue to be the NLC rep, or you'd like not to be the NLC rep, or?
I'm happy to split it if anybody else is available, but I'm also happy to try to get it now.
Okay. So we're looking for somebody, if they want to split it. Half-time, fourth Tuesday.
I think you said where.
Oh, I think it's usually downtown the LCC building, I think, these days.
It seems like they've been meeting on Zoom.
They
They're also
were.
in person.
Yeah, person there.
Well, hybrid, Zoom and in person.
Mhm. Okay. Anything else? Thank you for coming, everybody. We appreciate your participation.
Thank you for your patience.